May we have the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
Flag
of the United
United
States
States of America,
and to the republic
Republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
nation
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, thank you. So we have 6 and hopefully more to follow. Let me go back to the agenda here. Hang on, bear with me. I have a bad signal here. So next agenda item is the February minutes, as we didn't have a March meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? Okay, do we have any changes to note? Do we have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. There are 2 items that I added to the quote standard agenda, and I'd like to go through those briefly now because at least one of them, the database came up at our last meeting, and we have a number of new members since that original spreadsheet was developed, and I've heard some comments that people would like to understand what it is, where it came from, and where it might be going. Let me give you a little background, and I asked Beryl to chime in because she was there when this went down. This goes back about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. Beryl was on the commission. I was appointed to the commission. Jim Abraham was the chair. Deborah Cox was the development director. And we were having a devil of a time getting folks to show up for our business breakfast. And I got into the middle of that and took a look at how we kept records of who our businesses were in town and how we could contact them efficiently. And it was, shall I say, not pretty. It was basically a Rolodex and a bunch of scribbled notes of businesses and contacts, and the idea that we could just push a button and send an email out to our business leaders was a stretch. So we, as a commission, proposed that we develop a contact database to kind of bring Trumbull into the, if not the 21st century, at least the late 20th century, so that Tim and Deb and others would have easy access to what businesses were in town, who the leaders were of those businesses, how big they might be, how we could contact them. And Beryl, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Bill Chin was here then. Bill, is that correct?
Sorry, what was the question?
You weren't around in 2010, were you, when we did the original spreadsheet?
No. No, that was before me.
Okay. What happened was, as I recall, and Beryl, correct me if I'm wrong, we, as a commission, and Deborah went to Tim and said, look, we'd like to develop this because it'll become an asset for Trumbull and our ability, your ability to communicate with our business community. And there was pushback to some degree from the IT department. They basically said they were too busy, or to be honest with you, I don't know what they said, but it was not great idea. Let's get started. And so we got permission to retain an intern from Fairfield University to take a first crack at this. A young man who was, if I recall correctly, was a combined marketing and technology student, nice young guy, and he worked for Deborah Cox. And we agreed that absent better technology and absent, at that point, IT support, we would do a big Excel spreadsheet just to get all of the contact information we had in one place. And this young man did that. In fact, we featured him at one of our business breakfasts. He got a nice ovation and hopefully some contacts. We tried to arrange that. And again, he was either a senior or a graduate student at Fairfield U. So at that point, 10 years ago, for better or worse in terms of technology, we had an Excel spreadsheet with a few hundred entries. And we had the agreement from the town to maintain it, including asking interns down the road to help maintain it. We understood that there was going to be technology coming that might make that outdated. One of the issues that came up at our last meeting was this database is not sortable by business category. It was supposed to be. I think one initial version was because each business had a category code. So if it was a gas station, it got a G, and if it was a restaurant, it got an R, and you could organize the database by sorting on that field. I can't swear to that, but that's what I was told. Anyway, I think Rena has tried to maintain that over time. I believe others have been involved, but I want to make, I think, two things. One, as a commission member, I think we need such a database in a town our size with the technology that's available and with the competitive situation we find ourselves in. Whether this can be an Excel spreadsheet or a contact database of some other sort is above my pay grade. But I'd like to ask Rena to fill in some blanks here in terms of what she inherited, where it went, and where she thinks we ought to go.
Sure. Thanks for that history, which I am aware of, and I appreciate you sharing that again to remind us all. When I came to Trumbull in 2016, the commission mentioned this database to me. So we had a meeting, Gail, our former clerk, Jackie Galliani, who used to be on the commission, and myself. The problem is, from the time that database or that spreadsheet was developed, multiple people had held, Deb had left. There was two other economic development directors within only a few years, and it was not maintained whatsoever. It was not updated. It was not maintained. And a lot of what was on the spreadsheet was defunct because people come and go, as you all know from your networks, to different jobs. So if you're not constantly, updating it and so forth. So what we did was we cleaned it out and then we started a process. So I have obviously a big network from my professional career. So I was able to dump people into the spreadsheet from my own resources. And then Gail and I had a system that every week she would update the spreadsheet. So she had a basket on her desk, and I would either email her, or if I was out at a business engagement and picked up business cards, I'd dump them in the little basket, and she would edit that and add that to our spreadsheet. Now, the problem was, and I had talked to the commission about this multiple times while we were going through this transition. So the spreadsheet went from probably maybe a couple of hundred, if that, viable contacts. Maybe it was less than that when I took over the position that I'm in, to close to 1,000. Now we have we now have a subscriber process, which I'll explain, which is a separate list, but we have the same database. It is now cleaned and added to on a regular basis. Since Gail left, I can tell you we're not updating it weekly. I've probably updated it twice since she left. It's very difficult without a clerk or clerical support to do that. But I have a bin. In fact, this is my home bin of what has to be added. And I have one at the office of things that have to be added. So it's a constant built-in thing that we do. Initially, in order to communicate with that database, I would copy and paste emails in batches to the list because we did not have constant contact or anything like that here. That got too big because the list grew and grew and grew. Okay, you know that we have 1,000 or more people that we can contact through that list. So what happened was we had to go probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I discussed this with the commission. We could no longer do it that way. The benefits of doing it that way is it was perceived as a personal email from me anytime they got something. So it got a lot of interaction. But the drawbacks were that I had to batch small groups. It was very labor intensive and hard to manage. So we went to what they call eye contact. It's similar to constant contact. We used eye contact, so we still maintain the database, but then we dump it into eye contact and do all of our communication through there. That also has an ability to sort duplicates, to eliminate people who go bad in terms of, let's say their email goes defunct or something like that, and so forth. So we were using eye contact. When the town redid their website back, I think it was a year or two ago, we went to a new system. We took all of those lists, same lists, and we still maintain the master spreadsheet in our office. And we keep a line across it for anything new we add so that we can give the new batch to Bill Chin to enter into his blast system. So we now have an economic and community development blast list built into our website IT thing, which you will see. I told you in the last meeting, 102 emails went out through it last year related to COVID and other things. In addition to that, the town, and now the issue with that system is that system you can opt out of, just like you can opt out of any email system that, like if you get ads or something, you can unsubscribe. So people can unsubscribe if they want to. I'm not saying that we get a lot of people unsubscribing, but that is what can happen there. Then we also keep the master spreadsheet because we don't want to lose those contacts if somebody unsubscribes, you know what I'm saying? So we have the master spreadsheet at the office. In addition, Bill had added into our new website, people can subscribe to various things on the website. They can subscribe to planning and zoning. They can subscribe to economic development. There's Parks and Rec. They can subscribe to a bunch of stuff. They have to go online and sign up, and then they have to confirm an email back. So they know what they're subscribing to. So we have a subscribers list that's not necessarily a business list. It can be residents, it can be business owners, what have you. So we have two lists under the website, and we have a master spreadsheet in the office that is relatively up to date. Is it perfect? No. Is it being updated like Gail was doing it weekly? No. But the good news is our new clerk started last Monday. So we have a clerk. So we will get that back up and running. The challenges with it are this. We cannot sort certain subcategories. Ralph, when I received the first spreadsheet, there was no category at all. It was an alphabetized list by business name. It has business name to the degree there were addresses, to the degree there were websites, to the degree that there were emails with it and phone numbers, and the contact and a title. Not all the fields were always available, but those were the fields that I recall. Not manufacturing or whatever, restaurant or whatever. Now, I also have two different sub lists, okay? I have a restaurant list that we have updated with our interns, but we had created the restaurant list when we did Restaurant Week. Our last intern just updated it because that constantly changes. Managers change, people change, new places open, you know, the scene. I also have a commercial broker list because that's a subgroup that I have to communicate with on a very sort of specific basis. And there was no way to cull that out of the database that we had easily. So those are the two sub lists that I have. We are starting a third one for the Trumbull Corporate Park. All of the businesses in the corporate park, we're working on that. So they are also in the master list, but these are separate lists. So do we have a perfect database system that we can call sub lists? No. But do we have functional lists for some of the things? Yes. But can Rena go and say, I need to contact all our manufacturers, not without manually going through and selecting off of ours? Could we get to that? Yes. by adding, I guess, a field or categorizing or so forth. So I think with the addition of Gia, who's new to our staff, she is a recent, or she's graduating college actually in May. She's extremely technology literate. She is the kind of person that can work with us on some of this stuff, but she needs to kind of get up to speed. You might know that sadly, Linda, our other clerk's husband, passed away suddenly last Sunday. So she is out for several weeks. So Gia is brand new. She will be at our next meeting. She will be clerking these meetings. So that is the status of what we have available to us. Now, what I really need I would like if we could purchase an industry, like a business industry list that we can add to. Ted, this is something I spoke briefly to you about at one point when you were coming on, when we were talking about things that you were exposed to and could be helpful. So we had spoken about that. We've taken any follow-up action on it, but we have a fairly good ECDC list. But it's not sortable in the ways that we might want all the time without work. That's the status.
So what I hear you saying is,
Bill wants to say something because maybe he
Go
knows
ahead,
how to sort it.
So we can do this. I can help you with this. And we can use the VOC system to upload and create a database with different categories. So if you want to pull a manufacturing list, we can filter out just those people, and we can take what you have already and upload it into that system and then continue building from there.
So I think that would be a Gia, me, you and Gia can talk about that. And if anybody else wants to be involved, but it's not something immediately that I personally have the time to spend right now. We need to get staffed up and get people, but I would love to work with you on it, Bill. And if anybody else wants to work on it, that's fine with me.
Yeah, Rand, I'd be happy to get involved. I think there needs to be some thought put into what those categories would be,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
okay, well, any other comments, questions? I mean, this discussion has achieved my objective, which is to get all our newer members up to speed on how this database started, how it sort of meandered through time, and how we might move it forward to keep it as close to state of the art as we can. And again, I think we should erase the tape and just go forward, because it sounds like there's been a lot of thinking here, and a new clerk, and now Bill's involvement and Ted's involvement, that Rena can have the support she needs over time to get to a truly interactive and effective communications database. So I thank you for your comments. And does anybody else have anything to add?
I just have one thing to add. I know this is going back many years, but the Trumbull Chamber had worked with Sue Horton at the library to purchase some kind of a business database. And I don't know if it was an ongoing thing, if it was a subscription, and it may not have lasted, but I don't know if they have anything that could be helpful in filling out more businesses and data.
I'll check. I never heard of that. I'll check it.
I wish I could remember what it was called, but it was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other?
But just one closing comment. While these sublists are important, really the sublists are a small, like, we have actually a very good system. We would not have been able to blast 102 updates out without it. Bill, it's almost, we have an automatic system where content gets sent to certain people. They format it and it goes right out. So it's not that things aren't going out. It's not that we don't have a fairly big list. It's that it's got to be kept up, and there may be some other categories. We don't need to know necessarily every type of business, but we need some major categories. And that's where, Ted, we can get together and talk about what those are, because I don't want to spend a lot of time sorting gas stations or this or that, where I'm never going to communicate to them separately necessarily. So it's really about what are those, it's really manufacturing, restaurants, our brokers, and maybe some other, our corporate, larger corporate, maybe businesses under a certain size, you know, doing it by size versus just the type of business. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to have to think through, because otherwise we can spend a lot of time on something that really I don't need, candidly. You know, so we have to really think about it and make it a longer term project.
Okay, Marshall? You raising your hand?
Yeah, I had on mute.
Okay,
You know, for all the years in business, and I remember using carbon paper and chasing away copy machine salesmen when I didn't need it. And
We lost,
until you are at 110% of capacity of technology, you don't change. And we don't need to get into overkill. And what I've heard for the last few months was looking for a monster size thing that we don't need. And I think Rena is stressing this. We don't need to be able to categorize into 1,500 categories every business in town. It's really more than we need. We need a size parameter in terms of either volume or employees. We need retail, service, industrial, manufacturing, medical, and that's about it. Because beyond that, it doesn't matter if something goes to all small businesses or all large businesses. There's nothing we're hiding in these blasts. And I don't think we should spend time and money for the more specific lists. I just think if we had 10 people in this department on payroll who are out calling on all kinds of different businesses and people are specialists, it's one thing, but it's not what our town is.
I liked the categories you said, Marshall.
And we just don't need it. So that's why I want to be cautionary about this.
that's fine by me. I'm not interested in just helping decide what the categories are. That's above my pay grade. I just think we ought to have the people who use the database be able to pull certain categories that they would find helpful on a frequent basis. And that should be one of the design specs. The other thing, Rena, you said that I'd at least like to understand better is, let's say you wanted to blast out an email to all of the manufacturing organizations in town. You have to do them in little batches?
No, that I have to do manually because I don't have a sorter. I don't have it sorted right now by manufacturers.
But if
So
you did,
I'd have to just go through the list and pluck off who I need. That's the problem. On restaurants, we have a sub list. On brokers, we have a sub list. Everything else is one list with the person's name, title, the name of the business, the address, and the contact information, you know, key contact information, and maybe the website link, if we have it loaded. So it's not sorted by industry. No version of it I've ever had was sorted by any industry.
I got that. My question is,
Add a category.
my question is, if it were sortable by, let's, for sake of argument, accept Marshall's categories, which sound good to me. And let's say you wanted to go communicate quickly with one of those categories, and that happened to be 100 entries. Can you just write an email and push a button?
No.
And 100 emails go out, or do you have to do 5 at a time so they don't get kicked back? And I don't understand how that works.
So we don't have an ability to sort like that. So it would have to be done I'd have to pluck a sub list. When you pluck a sub list, it leads to your second question. If there's too many names in an email, okay, there are too many email addresses, and Shelby probably knows better about this than I do. Certain people, you can't get that email through to their email because there's too many people on that list, and their system will pick it up as a potentially vulnerable email or something. So it creates problems. So when I do communicate with any kind of like subgroup that's large, I will oftentimes split it. But our restaurant list is small enough that that's not an issue. Our commercial broker list that I have is small enough where that's not an issue either. I mean, it's not small, but it's not 100. So if we had, and we don't have 100 manufacturers, but we certainly have 100 retailers, let's say, if we wanted to just do retailers and do a something, we don't have a setup that easily does that. So that's where we're deficient. And the other place that we're deficient is just the constant cleaning of the list, because, you know, if Karen moved from this job to this job, I have to make sure I always have Karen on my list, but do I have Karen's new address on my list? Do I, Karen? Do you get our emails? She does. Okay. So hers was changed when she came here, but I had her, you know, and then her old email that got shut down probably got kicked out of the system when it bounced back. So it's been cleaned out, but that's a process. So that's the process the clerk was helping with. So that hasn't been done in since Gail left
Rena,
last March.
Rena and Ralph, this is Shelby.
Yep.
Data and databases is where I live. I don't live on the email contract. That's the desk next to me, but it's my backyard. If I can help in this, I'm more than happy to, whether it's automating the data flow or working with Bill on a design of what we wanted to do. This is my daily job, is building, you know, products like this. So if I can help, I'm happy to.
That's,
I don't know if we need to
that would
solve
be a
this
good
here.
team, me, you, and Ted. I have, Jen just texted me, Jen Records, our guest tonight. She has to jump off. So would you guys mind just taking a pause so before we lose Jen, so she can take a few minutes? She has another meeting to attend. Ralph?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Thanks
this is
thanks
a
for coming.
magnificent woman I came to know recently who's doing incredible things in the community, and she's here to tell you about an initiative.
Thank you. And I'm sorry for cutting the line here. I'm just juggling a lot. So hi, I'm Jen Record. I've been in town almost 20 years, and I run a nonprofit called Impact Trumbull. It's a 501c3 of Trumbull families. We do community service projects all over Fairfield and New Haven County. We're about 8 years old. I'm also a teacher in a different district, and I was a recipient of a gift card to a restaurant in the town that I work in. It was a program run by a community fund as a way to drum up support for the restaurants and for the teachers. And I was just so humbled by it. I thought, gee, wouldn't it be great if we did something like that in Trumbull? So I put it out to a couple people, and they all said, do you know Rena? And I said, no, I've heard of her. And they said, you need to know Rena. And so they said, we'll get you all the contacts you need. So I've greatly enjoyed getting to know Rena. We worked together. She helped me make contact with several businesses in town. We fundraised about $27,000 from 6 sponsors, the Residents at Maine, 10 Trumbull, Woodside, the DiNardo Eliello Fund, Newtown Savings Bank, and the Mustard Seed Foundation. And this week, we sent an email to every Trumbull public school employee. So from the superintendent, every administrator, principal, teacher, teacher assistant, para, custodian, food service, bus driver, security guard, nurse, in all 12 schools and the Long Hill Administration Building. We offered them a $20 gift card to a restaurant of their choice. And I made contact with all 27 restaurants and dining establishments in town. They, of course, all wanted to be on board. And so each recipient got to pick whatever restaurant they'd like. We did also include an option to donate the gift card to the Trumbull Food Pantry. I am thrilled to see that to date, 55 people have chosen that option, which I think just, again, speaks to how awesome Trumbull is. And I'm also pleased to see, because I can spy on the back end, I can see what people have chosen so far. There's been a nice variety. It's not like all of one business, has like 300 gift cards. There's been a really good variety. I think every place is represented. And the staff has till Thursday, but really Friday, I'll close the Google form. And then I'll run around town early next week and pick up, ideally, we sent the invitation to 1,352 people. So if they all respond, I will run around town next week, pick them all up, and then they'll get distributed the following week to the schools. So my hope is that people will certainly spend more than $20, and that will drum up business for our restaurants. Hopefully it will introduce staff that maybe doesn't live in town and is used to just going to the same place. I have heard of conversations already. People, that maybe go to Crown or Old Town, they don't know about Trumbull Pizza Company, or they've been there, but they've never tried Layla's, which is practically next door. And so that's the hope, that they'll be introduced to new restaurants and hopefully become regular customers.
Great, thanks. What support can we provide beyond what Rena's already done?
I think Rena's done it all. I would love to. I did also, I kind of skipped over a step. So last March, I put it out on social media. I said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we did something for the police, EMT, fire, social services? And I put it out to a couple of Facebook groups I'm a part of. And I said, why don't you give up your $5 Starbucks? You can't go get it anyway. Give me the $5, I'll put it together. And people said, well, no, here's 20, here's 50. And in 24 hours, I had $1,900. So I went around to most of the restaurants, not everyone, but most of the ones that could accommodate, like, they could make sheets of food and bring it to the firehouse. And then people gave me more money, and I said, all right, I'll do another round. And that happened for 5 weeks. In total, people donated $6,500. And then some of the restaurants chipped in extra gift cards once they heard what we were doing. So I did 5 weeks, and every week we did police, all 3 fire departments, the EMTs, Trumbull Social Services, and then the 2 restaurants, Bridgeport and St. Vincent's. But this time I feel like the community's been a little tapped out. People have been asking for lots of donations. So I decided Rena put me in contact. I pitched to a lot of companies, a lot of businesses. I filled out easily 7 or 8 grant applications. I got rejected. Bill, you'll appreciate this. A millennial Fairfield U grad, that's probably 15 years younger than I am. He interviewed me for 45 minutes and said, you're adorable, but no thanks. And not to take that personally, that's fine, whatever. Better not see him at reunion. But so the organizations that did were wonderfully generous. And it was great to have them in support of the community. To directly answer your question, I think we're in great shape. In the future, I wish we could have included the private schools. So maybe there's opportunity in the future, and there are certainly other members of our community that we haven't been able to acknowledge yet. So maybe I'll sleep for a day or 2, get some energy, and we'll do another round with some other people in town that we want to support.
Great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments here?
Is this the appropriate place for applause?
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, well, to Rena, yes.
Oh, Jen. I just put her in touch with people. Let me tell you, but I will say this. She's an Energizer bunny. I thought I was the quintessential Energizer bunny in town. She's got me beat. But I was happy to see that our new apartment complexes and their management organizations put up significant dollars, in addition to the other folks, the Trumbull Center folks and Newtown Savings and others, who we appreciate everybody. But it's good to see that they didn't just, get their approval for their project and then forget about the Trumbull community, that they want to be part of it, and they gave substantial donations.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's good. And we have to, and that's also going to them versus going to a lot of the other businesses that have been hard hit, asking them for money. So it kind of worked out. And like the superintendent said, he said, this is, again, to reiterate Jen's point, there are people that just drive into town and they work at the schools and then they leave. This is a reason for some of them to check out Trumbull. And we know that given $20, it's a nice gift, but people are going to spend more than that when they go out for any kind of dinner or thing with a family, or, so there's a multiplier effect to it. So we appreciate your efforts, bringing, obviously appreciation to our key people in town that have been servicing our kids during this time, but also bringing new commerce into town that would not have otherwise happened.
Yeah, it's a great team effort. And I'm grateful for the community, and I'm proud to live here and be a part of a very worthy organization. I'm sorry.
Would you, would you repeat your name for us?
Sure. Jennifer Record.
How do you spell your last name?
Record.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank
I
you.
tell
very
my
much.
students like a record player, and I have had a few not know what I mean.
Okay, well, thank you. Any
Thank you very
questions
much.
or comments? Great. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Take good care.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is, again, an item I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on because some of you, I don't think, are aware of at least the thought, if not work in progress, and that is the branding of the Reservoir Avenue area. And again, let me hopefully not bore you by giving a little background. You know, Trumbull, I view Trumbull as kind of a collection of neighborhoods. While we're all one town, each neighborhood has its own personality. You've got Tashua and Nichols and Long Hill. And I thought there was an opportunity, or we thought in discussion some time ago, as what I call the Reservoir Avenue area was being reimagined and reinvented. And I think it's probably our best, or maybe one of our best. Trumbull Center might be in the running, but someday. But in terms of mixed use, it's big, it's diverse. We're taking properties that have kind of outlived their usefulness and turning them into new and reinvented mixed use applications. And we felt we owed it to that area to brand it, to give it a little village name or something that instead of being the Reservoir Avenue area, it has a personality of its own. And I know Rena's been thinking about that and working on that. And I'd like to offer my help any way I can, but I'd like to ask Rena to kind of tell us where that idea has gone in terms of progress. What's happening next? I know there's been some discussion with the constituents down there about branding and how we might help bring this to fruition. So over to Rena.
So the planning study for that area, which is one of our industrial zones, is complete and in final draft. I think Rob sent it out probably about 2 or 3 months ago. If you didn't get it, it is on our planning and zoning website, and Rob can send it to you directly if you want it. And in that, contained in that plan are a number of priorities and different concepts, but there's a page dedicated to the concept of branding the neighborhood. Like in New York, some of the comeback neighborhoods, they gave it an identity and it sort of fueled, you know, you can think of what some of them are, you know, Hell's Kitchen, or that's maybe not a good example, but you know, I don't think that, you know, that's not Trumbull-esque, but you know what I'm saying. Or what is it? What is it? Stuytown, and you know, different things like that, where you get an identity around it. It becomes interesting, and it ties. You know, it gives you a way to identify an area that either had no identity or an identity that wasn't exactly the best. So it's, you know, usually people will say that that area is the area near Planet Fitness. Now, is that a good way to identify a neighborhood, especially one that has $120 million worth of development underway? We have several businesses in addition to what's already located there, like the new preschool and DaVita Dialysis. I'm working with a potential business that's going to come and bring some other amenities potentially to that area because they see the opportunity with the housing coming in. So there's a lot of what we wanted to happen happening there. But that plan outlines a number of things. It outlines lighting, walkability priorities, you know, some additional enhancements, some regulation revisions. And then there's a section that does like sort of a word cloud when in the community meetings that were held for this plan, this concept came up and people came up with some words that they might like to see in a neighborhood branding, whether it was New Hill or, there's a whole, so when you see the plan, you'll see that, but it never went to a full branding plan or a decision. There needs to be much more input and buy-in from the community to brand that neighborhood. So that's a project that has to come in the future. We have a basis based on the plan to launch a sort of a community input process for branding, but it has not been done yet. So that is a very interesting project that this commission, led by someone, on the commission, but chairing it, could work with Rob. And obviously our first selectman's office would have to be involved. We have to have buy-in both internally and in the community, but there needs to definitely be more input. We just didn't feel with, 60 people chiming in that we're going to brand an entire Trumbull neighborhood something, it just isn't enough input. I think that has to take next steps, and I'll leave it at that. It's not something that I would take on in the short run, but the commission might want to take it on. It's in there as a priority, but we're working on some nuts and bolts issues first. Marshall.
Yeah, right now, we're about to split the
You froze.
town into 7 legislative districts. And I think we should see where that falls in a district. We've got an election coming this year, and you'll have 3 council people responsible for what may be that neighborhood, and it may be people to spearhead such a thing and be involved. Because we're localizing again by splitting into 7 districts instead of the current 4. And I just think we should consider that, because it's going to define part of a neighborhood.
I agree with that. Let me offer, Rena, as you see fit, to help out here. Branding was one of my practice areas. And one of the important points of branding is to get to attributes, and the constituents need to articulate what's important to them. And then a branding team needs to pull that together in terms of image development, positioning, and branding, and then present it back to the constituents and show how whatever is developed is an umbrella that embraces the attributes that are important to them. It doesn't work to have 60 people in a room suggesting branding ideas. It's important to have however many constituents there are telling us what's important to them, who they compete with, how they're different, how that relates to Trumbull overall. And from that process, you get a list of attributes, and then you go into a creative phase where you turn that into branding ideas, essential messages, positioning statements, and then you bring it back to the constituents and ask for feedback. And eventually you zero in on a broadly acceptable positioning, branding, and essential messaging document, which is short and sweet, but you get buy-in. So there's a process, and when you're ready to get it started, I'd be happy to help.
Well, I think it's something the commission should take on really, and not wait for me to start it, because I have 1,000 priorities right now that are like going on. So you don't need to wait for me. I would like to see the commission have a little committee maybe and talk. I can help arrange meetings and stuff like that. But I think that that's something that doesn't need to wait for me. I'm tapped out in
No, I
terms
understand that, and I'm not suggesting we wait.
Yeah.
And I can work with the commissioners offline here to see who's interested, but we do need something from the town to get this started, because
Well, we have a plan that I mentioned that has some narrative in there about this that would be a starting point. And I think Rob he's really our town planner, which, you know, I think he could be involved too. It's not that I don't want to help. It's just I can't spearhead it for sure right now. I just don't have the capacity. So I think that and any other information that would be needed from the town, I'm sure we can help get, but I think it would be a great project for a subcommittee of this commission to take on and lead.
All right, well, let me suggest this because I know you're on overload here. Let me ask the commissioners individually to get back to me with A, what they think about this, B, would they like to help out, and see how they think we ought to proceed. I'll distill that into sort of a next steps document and we'll go from there.
That sounds good.
Any questions, comments, objections, support? Fire away.
Ralph,
Yes.
why don't you send an email out to all of us that we can reply to you if we're interested in working on the subcommittee or have any suggestions, and you can just cull it from there. Be a lot easier.
Fine by
So
me.
one thing we have to be careful of is not to reply all because that constitutes an illegal meeting. So Ralph can.
Just responding, whether or not you're interested isn't a meeting, though. It's attendance.
Right, if
But
he's
I kind
talking
of-
about a meeting, but if
Like
he's
when we
talking
replied
about
that
a
we're going to come to
topic,
this meeting. That's all that is.
What if I send them out
No.
individually?
you should send them individually.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because I
We
don't
can
want just interest, I
advise
want
to
some
this.
ideas. Okay, I'll take that on as a next step and we'll go from there. I'll get that out within the next
Thank you.
few days. Any other comments on that subject? Okay,
Sounds good.
back to Rena for her part. Everything's her part of the agenda, but
So I told you, sadly, Linda's husband passed away, and so if you are in the if anybody wants to be in touch with her, just let me know. Gia has been hired. She's fantastic. She comes out of she's had some sort of land use classes at Southern. She's a sort of a GIS major, so she's got really great technical skills. You will get to meet her. She has jumped in this past week like she's an old pro. She's actually going to clerk the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting tomorrow night, which is pretty impressive for only being here a week. And she was able to help us get ready for that meeting. In terms of our business update, we have a lot of new businesses opening in our commercial centers over the next couple of months. So Mariana's Pantry is coming to the former Mex on Main space. Melissa Cotto is a Trumbull resident. She's opening the business. She is diligently working on the fit out of the space. We were going to tentatively do a ribbon cutting on May 1st for that, but she contacted me this morning and said, let's put the ribbon cutting off till June. So I'll be in touch regarding that ribbon cutting. But there are also, I think I reported last meeting that the complex is 85% leased. The former Marissa's site complex called the Long Hill Market is 85% leased. The restaurant Echo is, they're beginning to fit out there. There is a physical therapy practice. A Trumbull resident also is opening its 4th office here in Trumbull. There's a martial arts boutique martial arts business that's going in there. There's a salon, Summer Evans. She started her business in Salon Suites, and now she's opening a full-scale salon. And then the Dunkin' Donuts, which leaves just the space in the elbow of the building that is not leased. Mike Soretta and I are working on it. But that's the status. Those businesses will start to open in May, and then they will open through the summer. The restaurant will probably open in July. And you'll be hearing about when we plan to do some ribbon cuttings and that kind of thing in the coming weeks. I should get some information out to you. I think it looks pretty good so far, better than pretty good. I did a write-up and Mike got me some up-to-date pictures that's going into our senior, there's a senior newsletter that our social services and senior director puts out. And I've talked to her and we've decided to do one little small piece in it each month on economic development update for our seniors. So we took complex and I wrote up what's going in there and kind of what I just said. So that's just a little way to get people knowing what's happening. We are having on May 1st at 1 o'clock, I just finished the press release before this meeting started. We're having a 20th anniversary grand reopening kind of celebration for one of our businesses. It is Tibucan Martial Arts. They were in Trumbull Center for years. Last year, prior to the pandemic, they purchased a corporate condo on 100 Corporate Drive and moved their business there. So they have been in town 20 years. They made it through the pandemic with no government assistance. They've managed through it, and they have a loyal group there. And we're doing a 20th anniversary grand reopening celebration. We were going to do it obviously last year, but we had to put it off given everything that was going on. So I will be sending an email. That's a Saturday at 1 o'clock. Vicki will be there, and I hope some of you can come. And like I said, I just finished the press release tonight for that. We will be, let me tell you, I'm going to move down to community development update. Rob is in the process of putting together some preliminary information for the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I'll have him share with us as well. I happen to have a lot of the information myself already, but it's to look at what the impact has been of the multifamily housing complexes that have been approved in town from a service perspective, from a service drain perspective. So preliminarily, I wanted to report to you that the 10 Trumbull development, which is 202 units at 100 Oakview Drive, is 100% occupied. It leased up very quickly. In fact, 2 of their 3 model units have been leased up. There's that much demand. That project right now has 34 school children in it. Some of those school children were already in the system and some are in private school, but there's 34 school-aged children in that development, fully occupied, 202 units. The Woodside, which is the former lumber yard, Reservoir Avenue, has leased 50 units extremely fast. There are 3 school-aged children in the 50 units. That is a 199 unit complex. So the good news is that things are leasing quickly. And the good news is also that it does not appear so far, although we're going to continue to monitor this, that there's an overwhelming impact on the public school system so far. It appears more than manageable, and we are in close contact about this. So you'll see other information. Rob is, talking to police, EMS, and so forth, and it does not appear. Certainly, there's calls and things like that happen, but it doesn't appear to be anything overwhelming. But that's just some information for you in advance of the report from a community development perspective. The other thing I wanted to point out from a community development perspective is that Vicki provided some testimony as it related to some legislation that's pending at the state level regarding affordability and affordable housing and so forth. I won't get into all the details of that, but her testimony is on the website. Hopefully you got it in your e-blast, because I know many of you are subscribed to that town e-blast, but if not, it's right on the website. You can read it at your leisure, and in there, it's an important thing to read because it outlines what we've done so far in terms of affordable housing in town, steps that have been taken. I think you'll be pleased to see it in one place. It's nothing we haven't talked about, but it's summarized. And the state is requiring an affordable housing plan by 2022. So that will be a project that will get more attention later this year, as Rob starts to wind down some other planning work he's involved with. So I think that's community development. Update. There's the planning update, very important. Basically, we have kicked off the initial Trumbull Center plan. We haven't done the community-wide charrettes yet. We are doing internal staff meetings and key meetings first on the front end. And then there will be a community-wide meeting that you'll all be invited to. You may be invited prior to that meeting to another meeting or a conversation that you might want to take interest in and give input in. I've asked them specifically to talk to you all and to planning and zoning and our other land use boards. So you'll be hearing from our consultants and from Rob. We do have an internal staff team that I run, that I lead, that meets once a month to keep that going. We're looking at that whole corridor. We also, as I've mentioned before, expect in the coming weeks a redevelopment plan for a portion of Trumbull Center to come forward. So all these things are connecting. We're making sure that the consultants are in the know, that they're talking with the property owners, and that the community will be involved in that process to look at that corridor and see how Trumbull Center can be improved from a traffic flow perspective, from a safety perspective, from a aesthetic perspective, from a business viability perspective, and so forth. The mall, we are in the process of raising money for a world-class planning study. We've raised about $150,000 so far for a study. This will not just be a land use, typical planning, municipal land use study. This will be a study that takes in economic analytics. It looks at market viability from an economic development perspective. It's going to look at land use issues, certainly, and other issues related to the mall property and that southern gateway of town. We anticipate needing $300,000. We did talk, we had a state legislative delegation meeting today that Vicki organized, and on the agenda was this issue. We're going to be approaching the State Department of Economic and Community Development for a contribution to that process, because we do believe that such a visioning, planning, economic analysis could be beneficial to other malls in Connecticut, not just ours. So we want the State Department to be our partner in that. So you'll be hearing more about that. On a parallel track, I am working on the development of the scope of work for that, the RFQ, the request for qualifications, that will go out at a later time for a team to work with us on that. At a later time, I believe that we will convene some folks to help on that, some sort of more of a local team to assist and to be sort of the guiding board, or not board, but team for that. So we may be coming to this body to see, if somebody, may want to be involved. I don't have that for certain yet. We're not that far along, but I'm anticipating that may be an ask of someone or a couple of people from here. So we'll be talking about that as things unfold. Right now, we've got to raise the money, because to do something, half-baked is not what we should be doing. This is really the future of the town. This is the town's largest taxpayer. Also, just as while I'm on the mall, we expect that the residents on Main will break ground in June. They're dealing with some Office of the State Traffic Authority finalization issues before they're breaking ground. So they should be breaking ground in June. As of right now, the mall is not sold, but you know that URW has a lot of issues as a company. They're looking to divest most of their North American assets. The mall is for sale. We're not necessarily against the mall being sold, because candidly, URW has not been that active of an owner at all. If you're looking to sell things and you're imploding as a corporation, you're not necessarily being a good partner on the ground. So a new owner could provide a better partnership, but we have to be very careful and try to the degree we can, make sure that, and I hate to use this word, but I don't know what other word to use, that a bottom feeder doesn't buy it. You know, we're worried about that. So I can assure you that Vicki and I are having conversations with URW and other types of people that are good property owners around the country. We can't, at the end of the day, we don't decide who buys the mall. URW does, but we're certainly having conversations about that. In the meantime, you know, while there have been a lot of business closures at the mall, foot traffic is starting to come up a bit there, which is good news for the retailers that are still there and trying to, you know, stay viable and so forth. I think people's comfort level is starting to come up with the vaccinations and so forth. Grant updates, and this is sort of an action item, I hope. I'm in the process of submitting a federal grant to Thursday that I'm writing. I'm working with the building committee of the Trumbull Veterans and First Responders Center, which is planned for Cat's Pond. Ray Baldwin, our former first selectman, is chairing that. And there's a nice team of people on the building committee actively working on that project. You'll remember that we applied for a steep grant through the state for the demolition of the building and for some initial prep work, which we were awarded. We are now applying for money from the federal government through our congressional office and our Senate offices under what is now called the Member-Driven Community Project Initiative. It was formerly the earmarks in the federal, it's the new earmark program. So I am filing that on Thursday on behalf of the building committee. The building committee has done a fantastic job going out to the region and asking for letters of support. It would be wonderful if in short order this commission saw the benefits of that project and supported it in a letter. I would need the letter by tomorrow or Thursday morning at the latest. I know that's a short deadline, but we didn't meet last month, and this actually just came up 2 weeks ago. This opportunity came up, so that it was a very short turnaround for these grants. So the building will also not just be for veterans and first responders meetings. It will be for workforce training, job opportunities for veterans, services for veterans. The Rotary will be benefiting from it, using it for meetings and events. The Trumbull Chamber did a letter of support for meetings and events. I will be hosting things there. This is important because the category that we're applying for under this program is called Finance and General Governance. That's the category that we're eligible under. And that comes out of the SBA, Small Business Administration. So not only do we have to show workforce development connectivity, which we already have, because that was already a part of the vision of the center, but we also have to show that it's benefiting the business community as well. So this is a very competitive political pool of dollars. It is by no way a guarantee, but if funded, the funds would come very quickly, probably in October. This is a shovel-ready project. I told the congressional offices in our meetings the last 2 weeks that in my 34-year career, this is the most shovel-ready project I've ever seen be submitted for grant funding. It is 100% shovel-ready, fully designed. In fact, the site work will be done before the decisions are made and ready to go out. The bid specifications for construction are already developed. It's ready to go out to bid. Basically, one of the criticisms, not the only certainly, but one of the criticisms of the old earmark program is they'd allocate these dollars to projects and the money would sit there for years and years and the project never got off the ground and, you know, stuff like that. So they're very heavy on shovel readiness of any construction capital projects, and they're very heavy on regional and community support. So with that, I would ask you to consider a motion, if you want to draft a letter of support for the grant application. You're on mute, Ralph.
so I understand, who drafts the letter?
Well,
Uh,
either I can draft it for you or you can somebody can draft it. It's up to you.
Well, my experience with these in the past is that, and I don't want to put more on your plate than you already have, but you more than any of us know exactly what this is and what the hot buttons are. And the commission can sort of add some color around all that, but we would at least need a bullet point list of things to include in a letter.
Yeah, I can draft content. I did it for the Trumbull Chamber. Others have been submitting letters, so we have, we already have the basics. But, we would probably need a motion to do that, and then I can circulate it for, just comment or whatever tomorrow.
Okay, well, do we have a motion for a letter of support?
I move that this commission create a letter of support for this worthwhile project.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, wait a minute. Marshall is about to tell me we need a discussion. Which is good. Good for you. Any comments, questions?
I just think that to be expedient, I think that a finished letter almost can come out for Rena, just copy us for us to approve. I don't think we have time to do drafts and comments from us because she needs this in 24 hours. I think we can trust her judgment on the language.
That's fine by me. Anybody else weighing in here?
Fine by me.
Does that need to be a motion?
I don't know.
Well, I'd amend the motion that we will accept the letter as drafted by Rena.
Okay. All in favor?
Somebody has to second what I did.
Yeah, we got a second.
Okay.
Can you vote on the
Second
amendment?
for Marshall.
Motion. Sorry.
A second
I'll
for,
second.
all right.
Wait, you guys, I lost me there.
Yeah, we had to have a second.
I have Beryl and Karen, then we did an amended motion.
Yes.
Who voted to amend them? Who moved to amend the motion? Marshall?
I proposed the amendment. Shelby seconded it.
Okay.
Marshall proposed the amendment. Shelby seconded it. We're now going to vote on the amendment and then on the original proposal as amended.
Yep.
It's the two steps.
All
Yep.
right. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All in favor of the original
Motion as amended.
motion?
As amended.
It's amended.
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, who did, okay, motion as amended, unanimous.
The original was Beryl,
Got it.
seconded by Karen.
Karen, got it.
Hey, Rena, did you get a letter from Trumbull Rotary or
Yes, it just came in while I was in the meeting here.
just
So
want to make
I
sure?
didn't even read it yet, but it came in about 20 minutes ago.
Right. I just wanted to make sure. I would have followed up if you didn't.
Thank you. No, they just sent it now.
And I'm going to echo what you said about the shovel ready. I was on a New Haven Chamber event with a representative from Rosa DeLauro's office, and that is one of the biggest things with these earmarks. And they said even with infrastructure projects, if your towns or states, municipalities or state have things, have them as ready as possible.
Yep. So we'll see. Like I said, there is no more shovel ready than this, and my job is to make sure the narrative is explicit about that. And we have a bunch of attachments, including all of the engineering that we're sending all the documents to show it's fully engineered. It's fully, everything is in place. So, we're doing everything we can to get the funding lined up. And we'll see what comes from there. I mean, I can't think of a more worthwhile project, honestly. But again.
Okay. Thank you. Event update?
So, yeah, we were hoping to have an event that we would have been able to have it maybe this spring or in June. And in talking with Vicki and others here, it does not appear we could really have a good in-person event probably till fall. So I think that September is more likely to have anything of size. We may want to do something virtual in June just to, convene people, but I know people have been saying they're tapped out of these virtual events and that kind of thing. I don't want to do busy work or do, just things. We've done 4 town hall meetings for the business community. I'm hoping that the brokers network, which is a smaller group of about somewhere between 50 and 75, will start doing in-person meetings again, because we got bumped last year. Remember, the plan that we're talking about for the area that we were talking about, the branding initiative, we were supposed to have a community, we had an event planned at 10 Trumbull in the community room there. We were going to announce the plan to the broker community, and all of a sudden we canceled it for March. We moved it to May, then we had to cancel it again. So we're on their list to do that event once they start convening again in person. And that's a smaller group, like I said, 50 to 75 people. Our breakfast is just too big right now. I don't think there's enough of a comfort level till more people get vaccinated. What does the commission feel?
Well, I wouldn't want to do anything that sort of backfires. So I would defer it until we can get together in person. If you don't think this fall is doable, I would push it to the spring. I'd rather be a little late and good than too early and have a lot
Not
of
good.
problems.
Yeah,
Right.
we certainly don't want a super spreader event on our conscience. Well, let's push it off right now till September, and we can evaluate over the summer as what things are looking like. Because
I
June is
think-
out of the question, I know.
I think things that start
We can't.
things that start should really be for businesses who things that start should really be for businesses driving economics. I wouldn't want to use up gatherings. There are just so many slots as things start opening for something that doesn't produce any money for the businesses that are hurting and things like that. I very much wouldn't want to have an indoor event yet. I'd rather push it after the summer. It's like Trumbull Day is coming. It's outdoors. There's a safety factor to that. I don't think this is
It's too soon.
as important as other things that can drive dollars into our businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other thoughts, comments on that subject?
So one other update, you'll remember that we had our meeting with the restaurants about our local meals program, and then I've been struggling to get the contract done at the state level. And during my struggles, something good came out of it. So we had initially gotten $100,000 for our local meals program to buy meals from our restaurants for needy people in the community and vulnerable people. During the contract process, we had several meetings, and we talked about, the needs of our restaurants to recover long-term, and they liked our idea. So they allowed us to ask for another $100,000. So I crafted an ask with Vicki, and we submitted it to the commissioner. And 2 weeks ago, we were notified that they're giving us the other $100,000. So we now have $200,000 to spend with our restaurants, which is serious money to spend that would not have been here. The problem that's the upside. The downside is now RENA has to take the entire contract and redo the contract to reflect a new budget, $200,000. It changes every page of the contract. So I'm in the process of redoing the contract so we can get the money in place. But we have, months ahead, a year or more ahead to use the money. We don't want to spend that long. We're going to use it as fast as we can. But this money will go directly to our restaurants. So I'm going to do another update to the restaurants just to tell them more about what the delay is. I had told them there was a delay with the contract, but until I knew if we got the extra $100,000, I didn't want to put that out there. In the meantime, you heard Jen and what she's done for our restaurants in the short term. We are still waiting for clarification from the American Rescue Plan on their new restaurant initiative, There's no guidance out yet on that new program from the feds. As soon as it is, we will blast it out. But that's where our local meals program is. As soon as the contract is finalized, we're ready to go on our side. And you know, we're gonna revisit the restaurants, make sure they remember exactly what they have to do. I've sent the YouTube video out multiple times. I have a write-up that's going to go to each of them, but I don't, you know, I want to do it right as we're launching so that everybody remembers fresh in their mind how we're doing this.
Now, one question, is Madeline Marsh still involved, and do we need to do something for her to recognize her service?
So she is still interning through the end of the year.
The school year?
School year?
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how this works. At some schools, you need an evaluation, a certificate of appreciation. And it's almost
I
like
do
a
that
course.
for all of our interns.
Yeah. So,
I work with their department.
okay.
I'm her internship supervisor technically, so I do all of that for any intern we have through the Trumbull Public Schools. There's a formal form where we write what they worked on, what they've accomplished. There's all work attitude stuff, and you know, how were they, motivation, attendance, blah blah blah. That we do that, but we normally at our breakfast we've started a process to recognize our interns, but we don't have a breakfast right now. We can certainly do something else.
Is she a senior?
Yes.
So she'll be maybe going away in the fall and not available for a breakfast, but yeah, let's think about what we could do to, you tell us, but everything I heard about her was first rate, and I'm glad we're recognizing her.
Yeah, we have like a certificate that we do. We had it framed for each of our interns last. We can do that, or we can do something like it might be nice to even do a gift card for her because, you know.
Well, let us know. I'm sure we'd be happy to contribute to a gift card, but I think it's a great thing for these young people to have intern opportunities, and good for you for finding her and supervising. Any other comments? Okay, community input. I don't think we have any
Bill?
visitors.
I saw Mary Isaac was here. She's still here?
I don't see any hands up.
Oh, Bill's checking. I don't know how that works.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Who is the second?
Karen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Nobody's opposed? Okay, we'll meet again first Tuesday in May, same time, same place. Hopefully someday this will be in person. Rena, thank you for all you're doing for the town. It's incredible. And I will get back to each of you with some thoughts on the branding opportunity, and we'll go from there on that subject.
Okay, I'm going to work on the letter either tonight or first thing in the morning, so I'll be shooting it around.
Okay, folks, thanks very
Have a
much.
good one, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.